Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the British Royal Armouries taking a look at some of the fantastically cool guns in their reference collection, like this Colt Model 608, or survival rifle. Early in the development of the AR15/M16, Colt and Armalite both were very interested in marketing and selling as many different variations of this platform as they could possibly do. So the traditional three, and you'll see this with the Kalashnikov series as well, are the PDW or submachine gun, which would be the CAR-15 or the AKS-74U, the standard rifle, of course the M16, and the light machine gun version. And Colt made a number of light machine gun patterns of AR-15, none of which the US military ended up adopting. But they also then went a step farther and came up with some other more niche specialty applications, like the survival rifle to go in a pilot's ejection seat survival kit. Now, up to this point, a pilot's survival weapon would have been a pistol, probably a 1911 or a .38 caliber revolver. But there was enough of a kit that you could put something more significant in there. In fact, there was a competition for single shot or for manually operated survival rifles, which is a subject for several other videos, but Armalite actually submitted the AR5 to that, which didn't end up getting adopted. Anyway, to cut to the chase, the AR-15 seemed like a potential candidate for this application because if you take the upper and the lower apart, you can take this gun that's like 29 inches overall and you can shorten it to a little under 18 of the longest component, which would be the upper receiver and barrel. And when split apart like that, it'll fit into a pilot survival kit, along with 4 20-round magazines. So that gives a pilot a lot more actual firepower on the ground than just a handgun with a reload or two. So in order to do this, Colt went through and lightened and shortened the gun in every way that they could. So let's take a closer look. Some people might think that this is a collapsing stock. It's not. It is fixed. It's this length all the time. And you might wonder, well, if they're trying to make a survival rifle, that needs to be compact. Why wouldn't you make the stock shorten? Well, the answer is you're pulling it in half to stow it anyway. No matter how much you shorten the stock, it's not going to be shorter than the barrel and receiver section. And so it actually didn't really buy any benefit to try and shorten the stock. What it would have done is added some complexity and some weight and a potential breakage point. And so they just have a fixed butt plate on here. It fits in the survival pack just fine, and it's one thing less to worry about when the gun is actually assembled. Now, what they did do to save space is primarily cut down the pistol grip. This is a regular M16A1 style of pistol grip, just cut off and sanded sanded a little bit round. It's basically a 2-finger grip. That was an acceptable compromise for having a little bit of space reduction here. You'll notice that the grip is the same length essentially as the magazine. So I believe that's what dictated the length of the grip there. When this was packed away, it would be packed, I believe, with a magazine in the magazine well. If we take a look at the markings here, we have Colt's standard manufacturer markings. This is a select fire rifle, so there was a full auto setting on it. Colt again, and this is model 08, which typically is referred to as a model 608. They were all 600 series for the ARs. The 601 was the first, 602, 607 was the very first carbine, etc. All the Colt models have 600 series numbers on them. Caliber 5.56 millimeter and a very early serial number there. The magazines for these are totally standard. They would be 20-round magazines at this point in time. The upper receiver is also totally standard A1 style upper receiver. We have a rather unique tubular handguard on there with a round delta ring. I'm not going to take that any farther apart. And then between the different examples of 608 were actually a wide variety of muzzle devices. So this particular one has an early Colt 3-inch moderator, technically, legally, a silencer. This size silencer on a 10-inch barrel, that's what we have here, 10-inch barrel, on a 10-inch barreled 5.56 is not going to make the gun particularly quiet, but it will take the edge off of the otherwise really substantial muzzle blast that you would get from this guy. So at least one of the guns had a 3-inch. Some of the other examples, one had a 3.5-inch, the longer style of Colt moderator. Probably the most iconic fixtures are ones with a conical flash hider here, but there was also at least one that was done at one point with a 3-prong early M16 flash hider. these, with 10 made, these were all experimental guns, and so it's easy enough to, it's easy enough to swap out muzzle devices to see what works. Now, I can actually show you the inside here. This is a remarkably dense, heavy device, and you can see there are 4 sets of holes on the inside there. So not so much baffles, but you have vents into an internal space that's going to just give the gas a little bit more time and space to expand and somewhat reduce the muzzle blast in the report. We can pull this apart very easily. Just pop the 2 pins. And there you have the gun in packable configuration. So you have 2 pieces that are just about the same length. You lose a little bit of that if you put on the moderator. But like I said, not all of them actually had a moderator like that. We do have a full auto fire control mechanism. So you've got your auto sear there, your 3rd pinhole. And then true AR15 nerds will appreciate the very early Edgewater buffer in here. So the very first pattern, these proved a bit fragile and breakable, and were changed out to the more typical buffer style that we're familiar with today. But very early guns like this one would have had early Edgewater buffers. There's not really much to show you on the bolt carrier group. We'll pull it out. It is chromed. This particular one has British proofs on it because it had to be proofed to come into the UK. We have one of the early cross pins. This one is broken right there, but that just serves to hold the firing pin in place. Firing pin, the cam pin, and the bolt itself. A little bit dirty from being fired at some point. And an early charging handle. There you go, one disassembled Colt Model 608 pilot survival rifle. Ultimately, the Colt Model 08 would not prove to be the Air Force's new pilot survival rifle. There was a competition, like I said, there was some other guns that were involved. We'll cover those in some separate videos, but the Colt Model 8 was not to be. This was made in 1965, as were they all, and there are estimated to be about 10 of these that were actually manufactured by Colt. And it's the utility of a pilot survival rifle, honestly, is a bit questionable. You drop a pilot into enemy territory with 80 rounds and a 5.56 carbine. Yeah, that's some firepower, but ultimately, does he really want to be out there starting gunfights with enemy soldiers? Really, you want a lost pilot to stay very quiet and very hidden until someone can come extract him by helicopter. If a pilot's getting into gunfights, the chances that he's going to make it out without being captured are pretty slim. And so there's a good argument for maybe he needs something that's more suitable to perhaps shooting something small to eat than starting a gun battle. At any rate, of course, this wasn't adopted, so there you go. A big thanks to the British Royal Armouries for giving me the opportunity to take a look at this for you guys. With only 10 made, these are very scarce to find today, and it's really cool to have an authentic original one to show you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.